And we're back!
Welcome to the Prodigals podcast, where we discuss all kinds of topics relating to faith and culture.
We discuss topics not normally preached on the pulpit or talked about during Bible studies. That is why we are here for you.
It is our hope and our goal that through these discussions, people will be inspired to talk about issues that Christians go through in their daily walk with God. So without further ado, let's get to our discussion. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Prodigals podcast. I am Mark, and I am joined by my lovely co-hosts.
Yes, we're loving again.
Billy and Alan.
What up?
Hey guys.
Billy, Alan, and Mark.
I feel so lovely.
So explosive. Bam. Billy, Alan, Mark. Bam.
Oh my gosh.
We're just an explosive trio.
I just got it. What the heck? Wow. That truly went over my head.
So we're glad that you have come to join us in this episode. We've got a treat for you. So this episode we'll be dealing with sort of money issue, more specifically tithing. I know we spoke about money before, but from another angle, right? Like we talked about why church, the church doesn't talk about money more than it should. But we're going to be taking this money talk from the tithing angle. And you'll see why when we start the episode. So this will be Let's Get Biblical episode. Let's get biblical. I wanna get biblical. All right, so we're talking about tithing today because there was a report that came out this past weekend that the Church of Judah Smith and his co-pastor, what's her name? Chelsea Smith. Judah and Chelsea Smith. I guess.
Oh yeah, that's his wife. Yeah.
His wife. Yeah.
So.
I mean, Smith is like a pretty common name, right?
That's true. Yeah.
Brother and sister, or
they could have been
or
not related at all.
Yeah. Neighbors.
So, anyways, his church, which is called Church Home, it's a Seattle-based mega church. Come on, Seattle.
Don't.
Come on, man. Seattle. You gotta, anyways, I'm not gonna get in trouble. So, a Seattle-based mega church, Church Home, which is led by Judah and Chelsea Smith. They're the pastors, are reported to be defendants of a lawsuit, which states that they forced church employees to pay tithe. So 10% of their income was forced to be given back to that mega church. And so this apparently, according to the lawsuit, this is against Washington laws. So something about employee income is not supposed to be, like, any part of the employee income can't be rebated back to the organization. So there's two things there. One, there's the legal issue of breaking Washington laws, and then two, the more spiritual issue of compulsory tithing. When it comes to the organization and employee relations, right? So we want to talk about this. We want to talk about tithing. We want to talk about, how it should be handled. So that's the background. So the issue is, to summarize, Church Home is getting sued because it forced its employees to give back 10% to the organization, which caused backlash and a legal lawsuit. Backlash because it's sort of like a legalistic thing, like compulsory tithing, and then actually the church organization breaking laws. Yikes. So, what are your initial thoughts with the whole, before we talk about tithing and as an issue or as a doctrine? What were your thoughts about Church Home and Judah Smith? Oh, this is actually Justin Bieber's church, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
Or part of the network that Justin Bieber goes to.
I thought
he led worship one time. It's on YouTube actually.
Is it?
Under the Church Home YouTube channel, I believe.
Oh.
I think it was like a year ago or something like that. Anyways. I was very surprised. I listened to Judah Smith sermons in the past, and he's a pretty solid guy. So, because when you sent the article, I was like, "Who's doing this?" And then when I opened the link, it was like Judah Smith and Church Home. I was very, very, very surprised that they were doing that, and I was like, "How interesting is that?" I think the legal part is really, really messy. Because they're just straight up breaking the law, which is just like a bad thing in general, which I don't think they should be. But from the compulsory to Tory side of it being a spiritual thing for 10% tithe, it doesn't make any sense to me. Why don't they just pay them 110% of their salary, and then they can just give 10% out of their own free will? Does that make sense?
No, then they'll have to give 11 something.
There's always that's the thing about fractions, right? There's always going to be that portion. It's that's just math.
You just put an extra and then.
Well, you can. I mean, it kind of just. I mean, I guess it in what Billy was saying does work. I mean, you're not going to get the full 110%, and I mean 100% after you've given that 10%, because it's technically 10.1%, right? But that's what? I mean, to a pastor's salary, that's what? $100? Less than? $10? $15? I have no idea, depending on what it is. But yeah, I mean, that's a workaround, Billy. I endorse that. if you got serious, I mean, if
they wanted to work around the law, you know what I mean?
If you're gonna bring if all of this can be avoided just by paying them a little bit extra so they can whatever, then okay. It's
kind of the sense of the livable wage, a livable wage. But it's the tithable wage. You know what I mean?
It's a loophole. It's a loophole in the biblical sort of thinking, or the Christian doctrine for some. Yeah, okay. I can dig that. I can dig that. I can dig that. The problem is, I think, the problem is not problem, but I think it would be, actually, it's not a bad idea, because there's a compromise between the person. I don't know why I'm still running with this, but there's a compromise between the organization and the person that's getting extra money. You're getting extra money, so you're kind of getting whatever, but you're not getting the full of it. You're still having to give some out of it, because not only is that extra 10% tithe on that 10%, right? I mean, technically speaking, but you're also paying taxes on that. That's still taxable income as an increase.
Right? So are you saying it's kind of okay? So let's go back to let's take this to sports. Right?
We're like Pharisees, taking it down all the way down to the
man, I love it.
The Toronto Maple Leafs, right? So the NHL has a hard salary cap.
Yeah,
and it's got so they have really good players who want top money, which is understandable. But a part of its lore, a part of Toronto's attraction is that, or Kyle Dubas's argument is that you can get, so let's say Mitch Marner, right? One of the players wants 10 million.
Sure.
Part of the deals is like Kyle Dubas can offer 8, but then
You'll make
Mitch
it
Marner
up
is going to get
within
2 million plus even more with endorsements,
yeah.
and
Interesting.
because of the greatness of the Toronto hockey market, right?
True.
So
Masai was trying to pull. I mean, that was Masai's pitch, as I understand it, to Kawhi. It's like, yeah, we can't, whatever, but hey, guess what? You'll still get we'll give you the most money out of everybody. Plus, you'll make that up with endorsements, and you've got an entire country.
Plus, he can eat for free
Plus,
the rest of his life.
You can Kawhi and dine.
Kawhi and dine. Oh my God.
But apparently that wasn't enough. That just. In any case, your point still stands.
You wanted to go home.
Yeah.
But okay, so I think Billy's remark is that the church is breaking the laws, but I'm not sure whether the church knows that it was deliberately. I'm not sure if it was deliberate or it's just they didn't know.
I don't think. Yeah,
because
they probably didn't know. I think it's probably like Judah Smith or Chelsea or whatever. I don't know if they have head elderships or whatever like that. Maybe they're just convicted to have it in their salary to tithe 10%. But I would like to assume that they have to have had agreed to it to some degree. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's definitely the contract.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, it's written in their policy. They all know it. In the article, he made whoever Judah, whatever his name is, he made it known to them later. To a bunch of them, hey, look, people have been reprimanded and even fired over not tithing. Right. So
interesting.
Tithe.
But yeah, to what extent though? A part of the plaintiff's statement is that she requested that for a certain amount of time that they will forego that compulsory tithing because she was going through financial hardships, right? And for her to live, she would need a big part of that 10%, which is kind of understandable because Washington State is one of the most.
The cost of living is so
expensive.
high.
Cost of living is so high. I was listening to a radio show and someone called in, and I think their gross pay was $180.
Their gross
pay? Take home. Yeah, their take home is 100 or 90,000.
That's 50% of their
so
salary.
50%.
What?
Yeah, so it's really expensive in Seattle.
That's also your tax bracket, right? Because you get taxed more the higher you earn, right? And so you're gonna.
That's true.
So that's not necessarily that. No, that's not to say that the West Coast and Seattle isn't expensive, because it is, just because the major corporations they're sort of like in San Diego or Silicon Valley, because of the earning potential of a lot of the employees at the FANG corporations, or Mang corporation, all the big tech corporations.
Oh yeah,
right.
Is it Amazon in Seattle?
Yeah, and so they've driven up the prices because of supply and demand and all of that good stuff. And so it's not going to be. The cost of living there is going to be higher, right? Just because there's more people with that much income, and there's going to be a supply and demand thing, and there's going to be people, owners, businesses and industries that said, hey, these guys can afford it. Let's jack up the prices. Sure. Let's, whatever. So, although Vancouver's just an anomaly. I don't know why. There's there's no major corporations there. The only thing that I can think of being on Vancouver is that's where a lot of the Chinese millionaires dumped all their money to try to hide it from their homeland.
Snap.
So they bumped up the housing prices, and so it's impossible to get a house, because just a regular house is $2 million. Well, it would normally cost 250, 220 anywhere else.
Yeah.
So
how are we supposed to
Crazy.
tithe? How am I supposed to
That's
tithe
wild.
in this cost of living market?
Well, it shouldn't be. Well, here's the thing: it shouldn't. If the Bible, what the Bible says is that it shouldn't be under duress, right? You should be a cheerful giver, right? And so my reaction to all of this point was that there's, you kind of got messed up on both sides, right? Both sides kind of messed up, in the sense that, now you don't want to belittle, or you don't want to like marginalize the person that is going through hardships.
Sure.
Because pain is pain, right? It sucks for anybody that's going through pain, right? It's there, right? But at the same time, part of the article is that, okay, so she got into an accident where she lost her car, and so she got a new car with a higher payment. Did you have to get a new car? Right? Did you have to? Okay, and she lost her house, her rental house. So there's that. And it sounds like it's been over at least a year of this situation continuing on. And at some point you have to ask yourself, well, if you're really into returning, a portion of your income to God, how come you didn't build that into, okay, there's some things I need to cut back on? Like, I understand there's inflation. I understand grocery prices are crazy high, right? Gas is crazy high, especially on the West Coast, right? But then again, they're in the States, so they got it better than us. But at the same time,
they still have health insurance.
Oh yeah, and then she's got some
medical bills.
Yeah, medical bills. There's that as well.
Yeah.
So you understand that, but at the same time, there's a reason why, at least the thinking of, or the theory of, when I was growing up, the theory of why you tithe as a percentage is because it's a percentage. It moves and grows by how much income you make. And really what you're doing is that you're allotting, you've got 90% of to live on, and then the 10% is going to God, and then whatever else you want to give, that's your offering. Right? That's your love offering. And so when you think about, like, as I grew up, as I was taught, you were given 90% to live off of, right? And if you're saving, and if you're taught to save 25% or whatever, you can figure that out, right? So that's on her in a bit, right? And I'm not saying that she, that she should pull up her big girl pants and, not in and just be whatever for her hardships. No, man, do better.
Do better.
No, we haven't said that for a while. Do better. But on the other side, it's like it sounded like threats, right? Like legitimate threats. Like, you're going to get fired over this.
Yeah, to lose. Yeah, you're going to get fired.
Now I understand also from the standpoint of, hey, you're a leader. You're part of this leadership team that is talking about being faithful to God, faithful to whatever. This is part of that message, and you're kind of undercutting that. I understand that's where they're coming from, but the approach that they've taken, I think I would have wanted them to take a different approach, right? I think
less aggressive approach.
A less aggressive approach. Like, if you would remember, people are supposed to give from a cheerful heart. You can't do that under the threat of firing. Like, I mean, what did you think was going to happen? Oh, I'm going to get fired.
True.
Let me go give so I can have a cheerful heart, so I can keep my job. Right? So there's that. And the other thing is that, and I don't know what the law is over there, but I understand it's the language that was in the article was, you're not allowed to get a rebate back. And so the argument is the tithing.
The organization can't get the rebate back.
Yeah. So the argument is that, this is a rebate. Well, can you argue that it isn't? Right?
Yeah, they have a pretty good. I think they have a pretty good ground that it's not a rebate, because it is pretty much, I mean, not pretty much, but it is a nonprofit organization, right?
Yeah.
So
It should be.
like whatever. I mean, yeah, it should
I
be.
guess.
So whatever.
We're going to give them
Yeah.
the benefit of the doubt and say that, yeah, they are.
I feel like rebate like only applies to retail.
Rebate is when I have
or
to
like
give
for-profit.
my coupon in, to get that $1 back
To get
when I buy
everything.
some formula.
Exactly.
Like, when they cash in their checks? Is there like a rebate
Yeah.
coupon that they have to give back to the church?
Yeah.
Get
So
that
so
10%?
I don't know what the legal interpretation of it, but I think that's where they're going to argue it from, right? If this is a rebate or not, because I don't know. I never thought of it as, I mean, if you're thinking of what it is, you're giving it back to God, right? I mean, technically you
cheerfully,
are giving
apparently.
it to the, I mean, well, yeah, but I mean, if you are to take it the way that it's supposed to be taken, it's supposed to be given back to God, regardless of where it
Sure.
goes,
Sure.
right?
The thing is, like, the church itself is not following the biblical or the Old Testament way of tithe, like the Old Testament system of tithing, right?
Okay.
Because Israel has a 7-year system, right? And all their festivals and all their timeline revolves around 7 years. 7 is a perfect number. 7 days in the week, and Saturday, Sabbath, and then there's the 7th year where you're not supposed you're supposed to give the land rest. So Israel's system is that what I can recall is that Israel had 3 types of tithes. The first tithe is the 10% that's given to the temple for the Levites to consume, because Levites don't have wages because all they do is work in the sanctuary.
And they weren't given a
so
portion
they
of
can't-
the land either.
Yeah.
Oh.
So they couldn't make money in terms of business or farming or agriculture. Their income is based on the tithe. They get their income from the tithe that the rest of the nation goes. So that's the first one. The second one, I mean, that's what pastors get nowadays.
Yeah.
This is
So,
it's
like,
true. It's true.
So the second one,
Stick a fork in it and take it out and eat it.
Must be nice.
Must
Eat the whole thing. Aren't they required to eat the whole thing?
What if you cooked it wrong, though?
So, anyways,
Yikes.
Whoever's cooking it better be good at it, because, man, if that's all you get. Anyway, sorry,
that's
continue.
their Levite duty. And then there's the second one, is in the type of the person who makes a sacrifice takes a 10th of their earnings, and then they bring it to the altar, not in the sanctuary. There's an altar somewhere when they do make the sacrifice, and when they get there, they're supposed to eat whatever they bring.
Sounds
So when they traveled towards the faraway land to make this to make the sacrifice, that's what they were supposed to live off of, the 10%. And then the third type would be for the poor, for the strangers. So you're giving the 10% to the homeless, to the orphans, and all that. So this church isn't even or most churches don't even follow whatever
any of those type
any
tithing?
of those. They just pick that one because it's the most simple
The 10%
thing,
principle.
and it's stuck. The 10% principle that goes to the church, because that's I guess, I don't know why. I don't want to say it.
You'll say it. This is
or
why
I
we
don't
have
wanna,
discussions like this.
This is
I
why.
don't
Say it, man.
want to. I don't want to get it.
Well, I
Maybe
mean,
because it's what benefits them the most, right? I don't know.
Interesting.
well,
like,
maybe
it's not-
I don't know.
Maybe
if
it's just
you're
like
gonna- if you're
historical
gonna-
or something, It just that's been
That's
going
my.
on.
Yeah, it's so like my take is like if you're gonna follow the tithe
Hot take.
system, then you better follow
All the tithes.
all the three things and just like not guilt trip people into giving back 10% to the church.
Mercy.
All right. And like if you're gonna guilt trip people to give 10% to the church, then I don't know.
Sure, but I mean,
where that lands.
well, I mean, it's hard to do that when you don't have like sacrifices to bring. Like you can't take a portion. Like we don't give animals to whatever as a sacrifice. We don't bring like goods like wheat and
Unless there's
oil
potluck at
and-
church, you know.
unless they're well. That's the thing is that there's
So-
other. I think our versions of it is like when you have a concert, you ask for donations. When you have like a special event, you ask for donations. You have prayer meetings, maybe they'll ask for, they'll ask for the plate to be passed around. So there's others. It's not just that as well. But yeah, it sounds like they're. I mean,
But
we're not. None of
the
us
first-
are like following it exactly the way it is, right? So
Yeah, so that's
So
what
your
I'm
point
saying.
stands, I
so
think.
like, why make it compulsory, right? Like, and even the first type of tithe, it's like we're not bringing wheat to the Levites, right? Like we're not giving pastors chicken adobo, or like
as much as I'm
we're
sure that
giving
they'll
monetary.
Here, Pastor, I had some Sunday meal prep, and here's 10% of all my meals.
Here's the corner of the tray. That's the 10%.
I made a lasagna. Here's the corner piece.
That bite was good.
Sounds good.
Can you give me the corner with more cheese? Like, I mean, what are you supposed to ask there?
So crusty.
Oof, all the edges, baby.
You give me,
That
you give him the
crunchy-
burnt edge.
That
Yeah.
crunchy edge. I love the crunchy edge on this lasagna.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
10%.
But yeah, it's just I don't know. Like I actually want to get to the discussion of the tithes. Like what was your experience with it growing up? Right? Like how were you taught by the church? I mean, we come from the same church.
This is very true.
Same local
Very
church,
true.
same church organization. So, but we may still have like a diverse experience of how we were taught. But like, what was your experience growing up? And I think like you said it, Alan, and I think that's the same with me. Like it was like not mandatory, but it was highly encouraged.
Interesting.
Because of the statement, the 10% is God's. So he, like everything that he gives you, it comes from God, and he only asks for 10% back. So you must, or not must, but it's highly encouraged.
Sure.
That
to give it
stewardship
to
sermon, you know? Every
Yeah.
single time it's a stewardship theme. 10%, baby.
And then there's that like it's the guilt trip, or not even the guilt trip of it's just that Malachi 3 verse, right? Like the storehouse.
Yeah, yeah,
in
yeah. Well, I mean,
heaven,
that's
like
the
will I not?
that's
will
the
I not
main
open it
argument
up for you?
That's the
And
main
it's
biblical
kinda like-
support for it. Right?
Well,
Yeah, and if you study that further, it's kind of like taken out of context.
Well, that
Interesting.
and Abraham and the high priest Melchizedek.
Melchizedek.
why? What happened with that?
10%.
Just 10%.
So, yeah, kind
me the
of. So
rundown.
what happened in that story? It comes off the heels of Abraham rescuing Lot from the 5 kings. I think he got taken
Yeah.
away by 5 kings, and in the process, hey, he got by smoking them, he gets like some stuff, as spoils of their fight.
nice.
I think the
Conquered,
way
baby.
it goes, if I remember, whatever. And so the next thing we know, out of Jerusalem, which, whatever, this dude comes out. His name is Melchizedek, who doesn't have a beginning. He doesn't have an end because, the Bible doesn't tell us what happens after that. And so a lot of that is like, hey, that's Jesus, right? Which hard to
Oh,
argue.
yeah, I heard about that.
As a type of Christ,
Yeah.
right? So he comes out to meet Abraham as the high priest of Salem, as well as another.
And Yeah, his name means the righteous king.
The righteous king. That's right. Yeah. So, and in the process, like,
Interesting.
Abraham gives him 10% of the stuff he gets. So
Okay.
there was that, and he wasn't prompted of it. He was a cheerful giver, and he gave it.
Cheerful
Giver. And so, yeah, those, as far as I know, those are the two main biblical support that we can give for when we ask for tithe and stuff.
True.
And, you know, as much as we want, as much as we say, we say, you know, God is, you know, the head of this church, you know, Jesus is the head of the church, and, you know, God sustains us and he whatever, you know, it's not like God says, okay, you know what, you don't have to have any money. I'll take care of you. He does it within the confines of the economy of which we live in.
Yeah.
Right. And so, you know, if that's the case, right, you know, there's still expenses to be made and repairs to be done. There's a building fund to be saved for. Right.
building fund.
And as much as I hate when people say, hey, you know, you're the pastor, you work for me because I give tithe. And
Oh
stuff.
my goodness. Oh, that is so messy.
Right, it's terrible. You know, the fact is, you know, the money that a pastor or a reverend gets as their salary or whatever they get as compensation, it does come for that money. Right. And so it is coming from
I'm a patron of this establishment.
Right.
Like what?
And so,
and then I think churches also weaponize it. And
it's terrible.
They don't want to, like, if they don't get their way from, you know, the conference or the governing body that the local church belongs to, then they can threaten to withhold that tithe.
Yeah, that's in our denomination.
It's a protest, man.
Yeah, it's different for mega churches who are their organizations in and of themselves. But yet, and this is why like members that earn a lot, right? That become higher in rank or have more pull. I
hate that so much.
What so the heck? Dangerous because it's like, hey, you're thinking about taking me out as an elder? Okay, yeah, I'm just gonna go somewhere else. Right?
That's so messed up.
What the implication is, whether they mean it or not, is that person's influence, but also their money goes with them.
Exactly.
Right. So all the budget that you're thinking of, like, you know, it shrinks. Right. And so there's that aspect of that too. And so, you know, and as Mark was saying, sometimes people weaponize that. And I hate that. It's just a bad look in the body of Christ. This whole article
seriously
has reeks of that. This reeks of that. It's just, it sounds, okay, you guys are a mega church. Okay, you have, I mean, I'm sure there's like a couple of more of pastors. Is one pastor, you know, not giving their tithe is going to affect you that much? You know, from that. So if that's your thing, that your coffers are going to be a little bit lighter, come on. Now, if you're scared that if this one pastor is
people will follow them.
Yeah, they'll follow them.
They will.
Well, yeah. Right, especially if they make it known.
It's going to be like an exemplary thing.
Yeah, so then that's where it gets sticky and dangerous and ugly. And that's why I'm saying on both sides, you done messed up.
That's really messed up. That's really makes me sad.
Oh, you know what I just realized? Because so the plaintiff will, if she wins, and like whoever is part of the class action.
Who joins in,
whoever's part of the lawsuit. Yeah. So they're gonna get, if they win, they're gonna get 100% of the amount of money that they give for that certain amount of time that they're suing for. plus double
Plus double?
double
compensation.
for exemplary damages. So like I guess to make an example or whatever, like
Yeah. For
so-
justice to be served, I guess, in the sense.
So I guess they're getting back what, like 300%? Is that
Is it? I
or
don't
just
know.
double?
So they get 100%.
I don't know
So they get 100%
of the
and
money.
then double on top of
It
that.
just honestly, it just sounds like a money grab from all sides.
So what I was thinking is that because I'm pretty sure that those people have included that in their tax reductions, right? So will they have to pay back the taxes
Probably.
that was reduced from that they were given back to them?
Yeah, they would
That's who
have to.
wins. It's the government,
The IRS.
the IRS, the state tax
Hey.
laws, guys.
That's like income, I guess. So unless the court says otherwise, but it is income.
It's just a messy situation.
Yeah,
all throughout.
seriously.
Yeah, and the other thing that's not talked about is, I mean, I don't know if Washington State has this thing, but there's this provision in the tax laws for a lot of places, and I can't imagine that a majority of the states doesn't have this, or at least have it. Is that you can deduct a portion of your taxable income, with how much money that you pay on rent, and your mortgage. Right. So if you're living somewhere and you pay like $1,000 in rent, and that would be awesome for like right now. But if you pay like $1,000 a month per whatever, you can deduct all of that from your taxable income.
Do we have that here? Do we have
Right.
it?
Yeah, we do have it here.
Yeah.
We do.
I just did my taxes, and I'm like, I remember seeing that there.
Yeah, we have that here. And I've benefited from that. At some point. So I know it's there, and it's good. It's nice. It makes a difference, right? It makes a difference. So are you going to, if that's the case over there, are you going to take that back? Do they have to like do something with that for the plaintiff, right? That's taking advantage of that as well. Do you know what I mean? So if they've taken advantage of this loophole in the taxes, but then they're going to want, because they, you know what I'm saying? So it just sounds like
This is just so messy. Like, it's just super, super messy situation based off now that I know a very isolated part of the Bible that, I mean, the 10% part. It's isolated because we were talking about like the 3 types of tithe. Like it's like an isolated thing that's been carried out throughout the church. And I'm like, interesting.
Yeah.
Do you guys
there was
tithe?
a question
All right,
that
so-
we
You guys
didn't
tithe?
answer here. So, right. Yeah. So I still tithe. I teach my kids to tithe, and give offering. So we try to do that, and it's yeah, for us, it is the principle of giving back to God, understanding and recognizing the provision that he's given to me. And I'd be lying if I didn't hear in the back of my head, testimonies of people that says that would give their testimony and say, well, when I used to not do that, but when I did, when I started giving tithe, things started to last longer. Money started to go farther.
Yeah.
Right, little blessings here and there that just made the money stretch. Right, and then
Tax returns got bigger.
which is not even that's a thing, right? You give it.
It's true.
Yeah, a lot of
It's
that.
kinda
Your tax return. For at least for me, it's
nice.
It's substantial. All things considered.
Sure.
But a lot of it is because I give tithe. Now, obviously, you're giving. You're taking out from your whatever. And if you weren't to give it, if you weren't to give the tithe, your taxes or whatever that you get more than the tax that you get back. But in my head, it's just like, I hear those testimonies. I know what I teach my kids. I know what kind of principles that I want in my house, right? And I want to be faithful to God. And the last thing that comes in my mind is hey, where your treasure is, that's where your heart is. And you won't. There's something that that always that sticks with me in the sense that, hey, look, you're not gonna know how you feel about God or how you feel about something until it hits your wallet, right? Because that's where, for a lot of us, that's where the rubber meets the road. Yeah, I can pray. Yeah, I can do whatever. But when I have to give money for it and I've got bills to pay, I've got to plan for this trip that I want. I've got gas that's getting up there and groceries and I can't, whatever. Where's your treasure? Right?
Wow.
And is your money going to be more important than your God? Right? Is your God
money your God?
Is your God just there? Right? Is your God like the top part? Right? Is God the one thing that you can't do without? Or is it the money, the tie, that thing that you can't do without?
Wow.
Right? Because one of them will tell you, well, Tim Keller, man.
Prodigals pulpit.
Prodigals pulpit.
But that's my approach to it. That's what I want. That's the kind of thing that I know. And I'll be lying to you if I haven't thought about it before that, hey, if I didn't give it, you know how much I can actually afford a better car.
Yeah,
I can afford at least another camp for my kids.
That Ford
Right?
Lightning.
Another basketball camp or gymnastics or like
Ford Lightning.
I saw that the other. I parked beside one.
Oh?
When we went to, yeah. Wow, it's so good, so good.
Oh
But anyways,
my goodness.
I know. No, it's
I
not
think-
an idol. It's not an idol. No. So, yeah.
I mean, you don't need it. You really don't need it. We don't need anything.
I don't
pretty
need
much.
it. I don't need it.
God
I
gives
just-
us all that we need already.
He does. He just needs
It
to
would be
deliver
nice,
me
though.
from the gas companies. That's all. He needs to deliver me from the gas companies.
In soon time,
hate
when
I hate them.
all gas is going to be
I
eliminated, it's going to
hate
be
OPEC.
electrical cars.
2035.
2035. That's so soon. It's 12 years. Savannah's going to be 13. We're going to be driving in an electric car. No problem. Everyone's going to be driving an electric car.
That's right.
But yeah.
I can't wait
I'll
for that
still
day.
drive gas.
You're going to be
But yeah,
such a
like,
hippie driving a gas car. What a hipster.
But I can't. I mean, I can't. Yeah, I would be lying to you if I had said I didn't think about it before. Like to say, if I didn't give, I can afford more. Things would be.
For sure.
I
Of
can
course.
breathe a little easier. Right? Because it's not just tithe; it's also offering as well. Right? So, there's, and I don't know if that's a good thing because the unspoken rule in our denomination is 10% tithe, but 5% offering.
What? I've never heard of this 5% offering.
You've never looked in an envelope?
Never.
It's there.
It's there.
It says 5%.
No way.
It's.
I thought offering was
I
just.
don't know.
I thought
I don't-
offering was just the loose change that you have in your pocket. To be honest with you, when the money bag.
That's for the
when
kids.
Hey, that's what I grew up with. So when the bags came around, my mom gave me some loose change to give offering.
Yeah. So I mean,
The Pharisees offered loose change.
there you go. I know. That's the thing. Like, if you are a person that doesn't believe in tithe, then whatever. I'm not it's disparaging you because it's like the Old Testament, and we don't follow that. We follow the New Testament. Do you know what they're asking of the New Testament when they're here in the New Testament? Have you read what they did with their money? Right. Let's forget about the widow with the 2 mites. Forget the widow with the 2 mites. Yeah, they sold all that they have and they gave it to the church so that they all could be like taken care of.
I mean, that's my dream.
By that standard,
except
everything
for
that you own,
Ananias.
except for
You know what happened?
well, at some point he gave it all up, like at some way, right? So
Oh, that's true.
one
And
way
then
or
they
another,
look
he
good.
gave it all up, and then some. But yeah, like if you're really gonna go and say, "Oh no, we're a New Testament church," like we follow the New Testament, the Old Testament, whatever. Dude, do you know what happened? Right?
Wow, I
Everybody
had a
gave.
dream. That was my dream.
Everybody gave.
There was a time in my life I was like, wow, we just all need to live in a communal house
In a
and have a
commune?
pool. No, it's like serious. I think,
A multiplex.
but
We'll build
also
a condo,
no, but
Billy.
also like a multiplex, but also we all have one bank account because my money is your money. There was a time in my life.
Oh snap!
There's a time.
There goes my Ford Lightning.
You mean our Ford Lightning?
Everybody.
There was a
gets
time in
it.
my-
It's the communal Ford Lightning.
Yeah, there was a time in my life. I think that I was really convicted. I was like, man, we all just need to live together, have shared money, all the shared money, and just live in community with one another. I was there at one point. Yeah, good
What
times.
happened? You had a kid?
I had a kid.
I got married.
I got married.
Started
No.
renting.
Go, man.
This
I
is
have a-
actually
I have a
no.
mortgage.
This was actually when we were married.
Tax
Okay.
season.
Tax,
came.
and then life hit, and I'm like, oh yeah,
Pandemic hit. Yeah.
yeah. Like I
Yeah,
have bills
started
to
going
pay.
up.
Everything. Yeah. Maybe one day, but yeah.
Got a
Maybe.
raise.
I mean, it's not that far fetched and stuff.
It's
I mean,
true.
you just can't do it in North America. I don't think, or at least
I think you can.
nowhere.
I think you
All right.
can
Experiment. All right.
Find a land.
find a piece of
Find
land.
up north.
Oh, that's easy. Find
Yeah,
a piece of
you have
land.
to pull the money. Yeah, well, if you pull everybody's money.
Yeah, if you
can
pull
find
money,
that
yeah,
land.
no problem. Imagine
No
we all
problem.
pulled our money together,
No
bought a
problem.
house together.
That's how you end up in. That's how you end up in a Netflix documentary.
Oh my gosh.
Anyways, so back to tithing. So I tithe, like Jenna and I tithe, but like it's not the traditional tithing. It's like, we give to. It's like we do not put all of our 10% into a single organization, or a local church. We divide it up to the causes that we're passionate with, right?
Yeah.
And funding ministries, sponsoring kids. So whatever God has convicted us of in terms of ministry, then that's where the 10% goes.
True.
So
Wow.
yeah, we have a separate account, savings account that's just giving.
Sure.
And then when we feel someone is in need, then we take out from that and then give it to them,
True.
to whoever is in need. So
Yeah.
but yeah,
Wow. I feel like an outcast because we don't tithe 10%, but we do give. The same thing as like what Mark does. We do give to organizations that we actually do a lot of research actually to
Sure.
In terms of like the organizations we give to like Young Street Mission, we give to Compassion, and we used to actually give to like singular missionaries as well. And it's nice knowing where your money goes. Wow, where my money goes. Wow. What the heck? It's also nice knowing how God uses the money He gives us and seeing where it goes and how it's used.
Sure.
So that's where I'm at with like tithing and giving in a sense.
Yeah. Now going back to Mark and you guys think, now I've heard like other sort of ministers say, no, you can't do that because, now you're dictating, you're in the place of God to dictating where His money is supposed to go and I don't think I
Interesting.
don't
know if I buy that.
I don't think I
Do you have
I don't
more
think
discernment
can
than
be
I
there
do?
with you, man.
Are you more
Yeah,
Christian than I am? Like, I don't understand.
I mean, as I was saying, like the rationale that I gave, that doesn't contradict with the way that you guys are doing it. So I have got no problem with it. And it seems I don't want to think badly of others that that just want to be true and faithful to the way it's supposed to go. right?
Sure.
However they interpret it, right? However, you know, it also kind of looks bad where you're just like, oh, I just want your money, right? Because you know, I can't be seen by my superiors or like by the uppers that, you know, my church is not giving as much as they used to, right?
And that's why I'm
right.
independent.
Well, and the other thing, okay, and this is not with every denomination, right? But there are some denominations, especially if you have an overseeing sort of like organization over the smaller churches and stuff. A lot of how they get the number of pastors, like if you're currently enjoying a youth pastor as a second pastor, or there's auxiliary pastors, a lot of that is done because your church gives a certain amount of money that they're able to send that over. And so if that starts to cut back, well, technically, I mean, in their technical realm, you can't afford another pastor, so you might actually lose them.
True.
Right. And so it's, you know, it's not as cut and dry as we want to say. There's, you know, people get affected by it. Right. So it's not always cut and dry, but at the same time, it's just, you know, where's God in all of this? I mean, God still reigns over all. He still provides for all of us. And if your church has to give up the youth pastor, then he'll still provide. Right? If you get into
that just encourages more of the members to do the work.
if your car gets broken and you need another car, God will provide. Maybe it's not the new one that you want. Right?
That Ford Lightning.
And that house that you lost, you know, that rental place that you lost, maybe he's trying to get you to a certain place and not have to be in a better place, you know, that has a higher rent. Maybe he's just trying to get you to move.
That's
right?
real. That's real.
Right.
That's real.
But
That's
if your rationale is, hey, I just can't keep up with the bills, maybe you gotta have different bills. Right?
Got a budget.
Maybe God's trying to teach you something. You know?
Need a financial planner.
He's trying to teach you where your heart is. Right? What's holding you back?
Listen to the Ramsey show.
Are you the rich young ruler? Could you be a rich young ruler? Well, you've got too much stuff and you just don't want to give it up? Right. Now that's easier said than done because, you know, we're here with our budgets. You know, things are balanced for the most part.
Balanced. Beautiful. Oh, I love to see it.
But what happens when it's not and you're getting thrown into, you know, you're delving a little bit more each month into your credit, into your credit limit, into your credit cards, and the credit card companies are starting to call, and you know, money isn't an easy thing to deal with, and right? Not as a Christian.
That's interesting.
And I think that's another. I think like that's another thing that like the tithe is used for, because to be honest, God doesn't need that, right?
No, he doesn't.
This is very true. This is also very true.
He's got
this is very true.
1,000 hills or 1,000 cattle in a hill.
A lot of the things that God has placed, a lot of the systems, is to rewire our hearts towards worshiping Him and towards heavenly things, right? Like a more spiritual, a spiritually wired hearts, right? So God tells us to worship Him, right? But He doesn't need our worship. Like He's getting worshipped by angels who have better voices than us. Sure. So the angels, there's no tone deaf. There's no tone deaf angels in heaven.
To hope not. They're all perfect pitch.
A part of the reason that God has told us to worship Him is to rewire our hearts to stop looking at ourselves and to look at Him, and to to know that worshiping him is actually what's good for us. And I think that's part of like why he gave us tithe too, is to rewire our hearts to not to look at ourselves as, you know, the main provider, right? And to also have trust in God to be our provider. So like when you give up that 10%, it's you're saying in your heart that, okay, God, I'll give you this because I don't rely on my income, but I rely on you.
Yeah.
And so it kind of rewires our hearts so that when you know, our income is decreasing or has completely been removed by layoffs, maybe you worked in Google or Microsoft or somewhere else, but like, you know, there's a lot of layoffs happening right now. Even in my company, like drivers are getting laid off. So when, you know, financial hardships come, like have you been solidified in your heart that God is your provider, and will you still continue to give 10% of whatever you're earning, right? Like how little it is, then if you still, I think like if there's that inkling of maybe I'll just keep this 10% because I need it, it's kind of like saying that that's an evident that deep in your heart you're telling God that he's not providing for you right now, so I'm gonna withhold this because this is my work. I need this right now.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like that. Like it's an evidence of your distrust in God when you withhold that that 10%.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So yeah.
Yeah. It's like I
So,
said, yeah, sorry,
Like,
go ahead.
I have a question. Like, could I? Because what if in my heart I withhold that 10%? But like deep down, I know that God is my provider, and it's a wiser decision to hold on to that 10% in a tough financial situation. Because it
give me
kind
an
of goes. Because
example.
I don't know. Because I was also thinking about like, what if you're in like a. So what if? I don't know about an example. I was thinking about like, so say you don't have the greatest income. You're like a low income earner, and then you are living like paycheck to paycheck. You're not tithing. You're not tithing. You're convicted to tithe.
Okay.
But if you tithe 10%, you will not be able to like, I guess like, I think we were talking about like, you won't be able to like pay your bills, won't be able to pay your rent, you're homeless, da 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 da. Is that a wise thing to do in that moment? Is that honoring to God? Or I don't know. But I don't want it to be like, oh, you should be tithing. Like it should be a mandatory thing. And I don't think we're saying that at all. Right?
Yeah.
And it's not. I just think about these like, this is all theoretical too. That's the thing. Like I just think like, oh, someone's in a tight, low income situation and da 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 da, just trying to stir the pot. But I'm just thinking about that
Yeah.
as well.
Well, I guess the question is like, how much do you trust God?
True. This is true.
You know, how much do you trust God to?
Can you trust God in both ways? Like,
Yeah.
and giving the 10% and not giving the 10%?
Keeping the money? Can you trust in keeping?
Does it work both ways?
I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't want to say that it's hard and fast rule, like a hard and fast rule that you've got to give it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to say that because, I'm not the one that's in that situation. I'm not the one. And I'd be hard pressed to tell somebody that's face to face with me that you got to give it because, in the end, God's going to take care of you. But
yeah,
I mean, isn't that what it's made for?
Yeah.
Right. To recognize where your provisions come from, to hold on. And I don't know, maybe God's okay with it. I don't want to speak for him. If you say, okay, hey, you need a couple of you need 3 months to like whatever. Okay. I don't know if that's what his thinking is. All I know is he says, if you're going to give, it has to be, be a cheerful giver. Right.
True.
there's that aspect. But the other aspect of it is, hey, I can do more. I can do more with 10% than you can do with 90. Right. So I think at that point, I think it's an inflection point for whoever is in that situation, that God brought you there because you got to make a decision. Right. It's going to be one of those anchor points where you say, okay, this is how I trusted God, or this is where I kind of, I wasn't ready.
Sure.
Right. So I don't know exactly how to answer that, other than, hey, look, you got to figure out your relationship with God, what he means to you.
True.
And how you got to where you got to. And could it have been worse?
Sure.
So, all right. So yeah, I'm a guy that lives kind of paycheck to paycheck. So, and it hurts sometimes when you're like, oh, it's there, right? It hurts when you want something, or and you're coming up short or something, and you just got to put it, and you're putting out a credit, and then you have to reevaluate, do I really need this? Right?
I want that Neumann.
I've had to delve into that savings fund to like pay other things, and just maybe it's just instead of a Neumann, maybe I have to get a Sennheiser. It's just
heartbreaking.
Apex.
No, I can't do Apex. That's
Stop.
Sorry, if you work for Apex and you're listening to this, I'm sorry. That's there. You need to get out of Babylon.
Sorry.
You don't go work for a regular company. No, I'm joking. They mean well. They mean well. They're just not there. So, anyways, yeah. That's kind of my.
Okay. That's great
on it.
I love that. That's good. No, it's good. I think the big thing I'm learning or hearing is like being a cheerful giver, because it really shows the heart. Again, like the heart that like you do trust that God is in control, and that God is sovereign over like your financial situation and your life situation in general as well. Yeah. Because like there's so much you can do with 10%. And what you can do with 90%, which is that's a mic drop right there.
And I can't help
Five lows, man.
Yeah, come on. But I can't imagine any scenario like that isn't a teachable moment for God. Like he's not trying to teach you something about you or yourself.
This is true.
Or about him. I can't imagine that, just because money is so impactful in our lives. Yeah. Right. And for many of us, that's can't serve God and mammon, right? Right. And so often we'll find ourselves in that situation, in that thing. In that crossroads. So yeah, I know it's hard. That's why the Bible talks about money. It's
crazy.
It.
I think we may have mentioned it like here and there, but just to summarize everything, what do you guys think is a better or more healthy way of viewing tithes? I say healthy because when Paul's I'm starting to say healthy now, because when Paul says make sure you stick to the sound doctrine, when he says sound, he means healthy.
Interesting.
Sure. So it's like, which I really like, is like, stick to the healthy doctrine, because we might think like, when we talk about a true doctrine or whatever, like we actually go about it in an unhealthy way.
Interesting.
Like, being judgmental or being too dogmatic or whatever, but there's a way of teaching doctrine in a healthy way.
Sure.
So, what do you think is a better or more healthy way of viewing tithing?
Well, I'll tell you what isn't a healthy way. God,
I'm giving you it mandatory.
No, well, here's my 10%. Do something for me. right?
Yep.
This is you're the genie in my back pocket. I pay your bills.
I'm claiming Malachi 3.
I'm claiming Malachi 3. This is my seed money.
Oh
This is my seed
god.
money so you can grow something in my life. Like a private
You're
jet.
my venture capitalist.
Oh man, this is coming from a place of experience, I feel.
I've been on both sides, man. I gotta tell you.
Man,
I've been
that's
on. No,
crazy.
well, I've been on both sides.
Yeah.
and not in the sense that I've been told that I pay your money, but when I give, I expect God to be faithful to me. That is not a healthy way
That's
of
not
looking
healthy.
at my
That's not
relationship with
healthy.
God. Right? That
Very
is
true.
not a healthy way. Right?
I mean,
I don't
yeah,
do these things so
yeah.
I can motivate God to do so to bless me. Right?
That's
Bless
what
me,
because that's what I heard
God.
growing up. Like, if you give that 10%, God's gonna give it right back or double it or whatever. Right? Like that's what I've heard that. I don't know if I heard it like explicitly from someone's mouth.
because I probably
Probably,
have too.
I felt that. I've heard that like around the church and the mumblings about it, and I'm like, dang,
It's
I
like
should
that
give.
pyramid scheme.
Yeah, that's a pyramid scheme, man. Like that's
Like how to turn your 100 to
That's a Ponzi scheme.
100K.
it's a Ponzi
whatever.
scheme, man. That's messed up. Which I hate because when I tithed in the past, things like that would come up, and I'm like, I hate how this is reinforcing this idea because I don't want it to reinforce that idea in my head. You know what I mean? I just want to give my money faithfully and trust that God will do what He will do with that money. Even it's kind of unhealthy in the sense that when I do give, I did like the research, and I guess you want to research like an organization and whatnot, making sure that they're legit. But like I want to get updates and everything, which is like nice. I was like, oh, it's nice. But when I think about it, I'm like, can I not just trust that God is doing a miraculous work in the money that is being used for the workers who are part of the organization and things like that? So yeah. So I feel like a healthy way of tithing is like when you give cheerfully, like you're letting it go and like really releasing that off, like releasing your expectation, releasing your idea of what the perfect way of your money is being used. Like not micromanaging your tithe essentially, or micromanaging your expectations, or micromanaging like the outcomes that you expect that the money you're giving to God like reaps. That makes sense.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
so I asked this one sort of like group, hey, so throughout, because this was in the weekend, I'm like, hey, list down 5 things in your head that was great that happened to you this week, and one person that impacted you. They'll go through their motions, and I'll say, okay, so how much do you think? Give a dollar amount of how much you would have paid for that to happen. And one girl's like, oh, I would have paid like millions. Like, great. Tomorrow, as much as that's given to you, right? You give that to as your whatever. Right? And they're like, oh,
I regret saying that.
exactly. Right? Because it gives us the idea, it helps us realize that the things that God gives us, right, that provides for us, not just monetarily, right? But the things that happen to us, and if you're so inclined to things that could have happened to you and didn't because he's such a good God, right? Is 10% that much? I think one of the other healthy way of looking at it is that when I'm giving it, I'm helping myself understand and realize that this is not an idol for me, that this is not a God for me, that it's not going to be over the Father. Right. So I think for me, that's the healthy way that I should look at it. Right. That I need to look at it is that this can't be an idol for me. This can't hold a grip on me, that it changes the way that I follow God. Right. Because what if he calls me somewhere, but I tell him I just don't have the budget for it. Right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and you wouldn't want to be disobedient in that way.
I mean, if he's trying to get you in a better place, but you can't because you don't have the budget for it, right?
Interesting.
So,
Yeah, and I think like I think mine like the idea that I have is it kind of coincides with the way that we view grace and the gospel. And I think I moved from, okay, God, like here's my 10%, so you'll be my provider. It's like, okay, God, you've been my provider. Here's my 10%.
True.
So it's like, because the gospel says like we obey him because he first loved us. We obey him.
He first loved us.
Yeah, we obey him because he's been gracious to us. It's like with tithing. For me, it's like he's been our provider, so we give that back. Like I will give that back.
Yeah.
As what's it called? As a response.
Yeah.
Of him being my provider.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, and that works. Yeah, exactly. With the gospel, with money, you're not initiating, you're reacting. Right? You're not the one that's starting first and saying, okay, this is what I want you to do. I'm reacting to your goodness. I'm reacting to the good news. Right? And that's why I'm doing it. Not because, I want you to bless me. Right?
I need that money back, God.
I need that money back, though.
I need that 200%. I need that return.
Yeah, I expect a 25% return back on my investment, my ROI. Right?
ROI.
I need that God. I need that God stock, man. I need that God stock.
No single stocks.
I need to invest in that Trinity.
Heavily dividends.
Yeah, that's why I diversify my
heavenly dividends.
But that's the thing,
I invest in
right?
the Father stock, the Holy Spirit stock, and Jesus stock. Diversified, baby.
HLS, HLSP, JSCH, GDFR.
But but listen, isn't it so telling that Jesus would talk about money and treasure, not to store it here on earth, but to store it up in heaven, right? Your bank account isn't here. Your retirement savings isn't here, right? This is not where you want to put it, right? Because it'll get taken away. It'll get destroyed. When you die, it'll go somewhere else. It's either going to go to your kids if you're good with your will, or it's going to go back to the government if you didn't plan your estate well. One way or another, you don't get it. One way or another, you're not doing well. You're not going to get it. But if you put it in a place where no one can touch it, it's a tax haven. There's only one place. There's only one place, and it ain't in Florida.
Tax-free, baby.
Tax-free.
The true TFSA.
The true TFSA. True TFSA.
TTFSA.
Let's put it this way. You'll have so much there, and eternity won't be enough for you to spend it all.
Jeez.
Bang, bro. Yeah,
how do I get it?
It always goes back to spiritual.
Yeah,
right? Like Jesus is our prize, right? Like an eternity with Jesus is our prize. It's not the streets of gold in heaven. It's not the mansion. It's not our yearly vacation in a distant planet. It's our time with Jesus, like our personal time with Jesus. That's our prize. So it's not money. It's not like anything. Not monetary. Not financial. It's all spiritual, and that is. It's not even, the goal is not spiritual. It's like physical Jesus.
Sure.
So,
can I just say one thing? I think this church and the head pastors, they missed a golden opportunity to have a teachable moment, with a pastor, right? And who's to say how much farther that would have gone? If you took the time to make this, as a teachable moment to say, hey, so where's your heart really at? That you're not giving this. No, you're holding onto your money a little bit more than you should. Right? That impact on somebody that's already been placed in a position where they can influence. They have a platform to do that. How much more? And they missed the goal. I think they missed a golden opportunity. Not only did they miss it, they messed it up by firing them, and now they're like, they're
Now it's
getting
a hot
sued.
mess.
And the other side is like, how come you weren't humble enough to figure out what it was about your money that you had to hold on to it so much? Right. So that's what I'm saying. Like, just both sides, they missed it.
You done messed up.
You done messed up, and you know what?
Yeah, and that's.
I'm hoping that God will. I'm sure God will find a way to redeem it. It's just, man.
Yeah, it's rough. It's rough right now.
It's rough in these streets.
And yeah, I think like that's a really good lesson for church leaders. It's like you have policies, right? Like you have organizational rules, but what trumps that is relationship. Like value people. Like you could have, set them aside and say, we would love to help you. We would love to teach you, the importance of tithing, but it's really up to you. It's really like what God has convicted you of, but let us know how we can help you. Let us know how, you lost your car. Like maybe the church can give you, a used one.
Yeah.
You lost your rental place. Like
Maybe you can find you a place.
there's a realtor and as a member in that
Yo,
church.
man.
And
Someone has to have an extra room,
ask that.
Well, even some of the stories that your dad, Mark, tells us about some of the, the blessings through the church that has been given to other people, to him, right? That's a thing, right? And so, oh man, I mean, and if the fear was for this church was like, oh, if they don't tithe, they might take other people with them. What if you sat down with them and changed, the way that helped them see the light, as it were? What kind of testimony would that be? Now you turned somebody that would have been against you into now a proponent of it with exactly what you wanted. But you threatened to fire her. You fired other people because they wouldn't tithe. Right?
Yeah,
and now
it
you're
doesn't
getting
make
sued. Right? You could have turned them into, you could have turned them into like a champion for tithing, but you didn't. Like, yeah, you hard-handed them. Right? So, oh man. So, I just, I just hope at this point that God will teach them, that they'll be
Redeem that
they'll
whole
redeem
situation.
it. Yeah, because
for
you're not
sure.
supposed. Because the Bible tells us in the church we're not supposed to take other people to court, like your brethren to court. It's tough, but on the flip side, it's tough to do that when you're getting threatened to be fired.
Yeah.
Right?
It's a tough situation.
So, it's a tough situation. Like,
All we can do is, you said it, we can hope that God redeems this and uses this as a source of learning for everyone. Not just like the people that's personally involved in the church, but not just for Judah Smith or his wife or, church administration, but, people out there like us, how this inspired this conversation. This can inspire other conversations from other circles as well, and they can come into a better doctrine of tithe, and then they can explore and actually reach deep within, that says like, hey, well, what do I really believe about tithing? What do I really believe about God being the provider? What do I really believe about, having a cheerful heart when it comes to giving and when it comes to blessing others? I just want this opportunity, this event, as messy and as disheartening as it is, to be a learning point for everyone, not just the church, but for everyone else that's looking on, right?
Yeah.
And hopefully, like, this gets resolved. Hopefully, this will be, there will be reconciliation at the end, and the church and the onlookers will see through the help of the Holy Spirit, through the help of Jesus the Father, that the church will be able to turn this into something beautiful, and God will be able to turn this into something beautiful. That's all we can hope. And it's been a good conversation, and this conversation happened because of the event.
This is very true.
Nothing goes to waste with God.
It's been I believe that it's been a fruitful conversation. I learned so much from you guys, and we hope that whoever's listening in this episode, that you've learned some insights from us, and that God has used us to speak life into you. But also, we want to encourage you to really dig deep into your relationship with God, into your theological.
I thought you were going to say dig deep into your pockets.
Dig deep into your pockets
and give to the Prodigals podcast.
And give to the Prodigals. Way to go!
It seems like such an appropriate place to like ask for
smooth.
ask for the donations.
I wasn't even going there. Oh my gosh. Anyways,
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
We need donations.
We need
but we haven't even started our Patreon page yet. So, going back, we just want to encourage you to search within your relationship with God, and how you see Him, and how God has provided for you in the past, and to see what you really believe when it comes to money.
Yeah, your relationship between God and money.
Yeah, because Jesus said you can't have two masters. Right? So yeah, we hope that you were blessed and that you learned something, and join us again next week as we will be talking about the Asbury revival that we talked about a couple of episodes back, and to really delve into what revival is, and to see what what is true and what is not. So we hope that you join us again next week, and always stay blessed and always stay faithful, and we'll be praying for all of you, and that you'll join us again next week for another episode of the Prodigals podcast. Well, folks, that's all we have for you this week. We hope that you were blessed by our discussion. Let us know what you think. Send us a shout out on our socials at the handle @The Prodigals Project on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
If you like what you've been hearing, please like and subscribe. Also, leave a rating and review. It'll go a long way in helping us out.
Stay blessed and stay faithful. And join us again next week for another episode of the Prodigals Podcast.